You know, it's my personal opinion, my personal belief, my personal conviction that America is on the crossroads, and what's at stake is our very republic, our very freedoms, and our very liberties. And I believe we've been drawn to this crossroads and this point because of the two political machines that have stood for big government. What is our nation's report card on employment? Well, we have 15 million people unemployed. That is huge. What is our report card on taking care of this treasury and the taxes we pay that go into Washington? Well, with all the fees, with all the taxes, personal taxes, business taxes, we're borrowing 43 cents of every dollar. 43 cents of every dollar. And we're $15 trillion in debt. And it grows and grows and grows beyond that. When I was doing some calculations just a few weeks ago, the best numbers I came up show that in the year 2020, 2021, somewhere around there, and that's just a short 9 years from now. And look back to the year 2000, that was almost 11 years ago. But we cannot even sustain the interest payments on our debt. If our debt goes to 22 trillion and you're paying 4 or 5%, you're paying $1 trillion in interest. And that category of money is more than the entire military budget and many of our entitlement programs. Our political will, how would we rate that? Well, we had the greatest terrorist attack on our nation ever on 9/11. And I bet many of you in here know families or friends that were impacted by that. The whole nation was. But we have not had the political will and the political courage to even guard and monitor and control our borders. Recent reports show that we control about 200 miles of our borders. So in the national security interests of our nation, we need to control those coming in and coming out of our nation. And I know a lot of people come into our nation illegally for better opportunities. But along with that mix of crowd, do not doubt that we are getting terrorists in this nation. We are getting gang members, drug runners, and human traffickers and sex traffickers beyond belief. But we won't address that issue because we don't have the political will and courage. The same thing about our energy policy. How many of you were around in the Nixon years and remember when gas went from 56 cents to maybe 85? And remember it was rationing where you would take turns, was it?
Even and odds.
Yeah, even and odd days to even get gas. And that's about the time I started following politics. And I'll never forget our President Nixon, and when you're kind of naive at that age of maybe 13 or so, you believe everything you hear and what our politicians say. But I can remember he, followed by Gerald Ford, followed by President Carter, followed by President Reagan, followed by President Bush, followed by President Clinton, all say the same statements, and I'll include our President Obama, that we have to be energy independent in order to have control of our economy, in order to have millions of jobs in our nations, and in order not to transfer billions and trillions of dollars to Middle East nations whose mission may not be the same as ours. So what do we do with a big government solution? We put the Department of Energy on the map, and that's going to save the day, more government, right? So instead of importing 60%, at one time, 30 to 40%, the report card on the Department of Energy is a big F, and we import more than ever. But do we have the political will, like Brazil did? Following 1973, they said, we will not have our economy and our nation under the control of foreign oil and foreign energy. And they are 100% energy independent. They get that from the natural gas, they get that from ethanol, from the sugar beets and sugar canes, but they made that decision in 1973. Another nation, we can't boo too much. I visited that country several times. I know some people from that nation, but France. France in 1973, 1974 made the same decision that we will be energy independent. They had the political will and courage, and they quit playing politics of who would have power, and they got the job done. They got the job done. They're energy independent. They have saved nuclear power in their nation, and that's about 70% of their energy sources. They export a lot of electricity on the grid. They also have the hydroelectricity is another 20% or so. But those are countries and nations that have the political will, that have the muscle and determination to get the job done. One of the values I'm running on reforming our government, reigniting our economy, and restoring America's might. When I talk about restoring America's might, I'm talking about strong military might, I'm talking about economic might, I'm talking about moral leadership that leads the world, but I'm also talking about energy independent. We have to go in that direction. Now, the trust and confidence in government is at an all-time low. In a sense, we can't be too depressed on that. It can only get better or rise a little bit. But there's only about 2 in 10 people that would have trust and confidence in the leadership of our nation. At one time, under the Democratic control, Pelosi and Reid, it was 9%. So we're moving it up, but that is where we stand on that. I just read a Rasmussen poll yesterday, and what it said is there is 21% of all parents feel like that their children and their grandchildren will have the same economic opportunity and will have the same American dream that I've had, So we have a lot to grow and build. But today I want to just talk and touch a little bit on what brought us to this point. What brought us to this point of almost bankruptcy for our nation? Well, it's my opinion that it's been the ineffective, incompetent, and often immoral leadership that's been in Washington. That there's no doubt that many elected officials have given political favors to the highest bidders. There's no doubt in my mind that the first people in line have been big unions to get their doled out favors, a lot of big business, and I believe Wall Street and many of their firms have been propped up by our politicians, and that has to end. I think that we've had professional political classes that have done everything to take care of their interests and to remain in power. But I believe that we can right this course, and I believe Republicans are leading the way. The Democrats continue with their dangerous policies that are affecting every American and every nation. I believe the Republicans' rebirth of the Republican creed has made us a stronger party. And I salute, I'm a friend, and I support the Tea Party because I think they brought accountability on the financial issues of our nation. Well, in order to turn around our economy, in order to right the course, in order to pass the torch of freedom to the next generation, I believe in our elections, whether they're state or federal, that we have to have strong, conservative Republicans that will not compromise on their principles, that will follow and adhere constitutional principles. Secondly, that will absolutely observe and honor the heritage of our nation as well. And that will get America back working again and put the agenda of the American people first again. Now, throughout our nation, throughout our state, we know we have the greatest state in the nation. Second would be Texas, by the way. All my UPS years were in Texas. And loading trucks, I'll just divert a little bit, loading trucks at 105-degree weather in those warehouses for 2 years while pursuing a business degree. Hot as you can imagine. But my UPS years, by the way, were before they had those short pants. Even though I was a hot dryer and about 70 pounds lighter, we had to wear the long brown pants as well. So that's also, I spent a lot of my time in the state of Texas. So as I make my case throughout the state of Virginia, I'll make my case that we absolutely have to take the dishonesty in Washington and turn it into honesty. We need to take the inefficiency in Washington and make our government smaller, leaner, and more efficient. We have to take a big system that's been largely unaccountable and make it very, very accountable. In running 9 business operations with United Parcel Service in 4 different cities in Texas, I'll give you just a brief insight of what United Parcel Service looks like. In any of y'all work for UPS, Federal Express, or a cousin company? No. But in UPS, everything is time measured. We look at every second of any employee's workday, every minute, every hour. We look at our budgets every day, every week, every month, and we have to run on budget. You know, it's been one of the highest regarded companies in the world, which is extraordinarily efficient, has made a profit every year, and 70% of their workforce is Teamsters. So you have a big business working aside a Teamster, the driver of Teamsters, part-timers. But that same efficiency is what I want to bring to Washington. And the last thing, instead of the excessive spending that has gone on and on, I call it reckless spending. We need to spend a lot less and be thrifty in the greatest measure. As a steward of your money, as a steward of your vote, we need to be held accountable. And the last thing I'll leave with, and I'll open it up a little bit for questions, is what qualifies me to be a good legislator and a good debater up in Washington. Well, as a lawyer these last 16 years, I have reviewed or drafted 350,000 pages of documents, and that's on a conservative estimate. In addition to that, I've had 3,000 court appearances going toe-to-toe with lawyers and a few judges every now and then. Right? I see some lawyers in our midst. I was a good kind of lawyer. Mr. Searcy's back here. He's a great folks too. And I have also submitted legislation up in Richmond and went and argued it before the Judiciary Committee in order to have those people in our state that have fallen in tough times, that need a little bit more help to rehabilitate and get started in the economy. So I've actually done that. Now, the skills of getting a massive budget that we have in Washington, D.C. and getting your arms around it, and when downsizing government, reducing the budget. My background through my law practice concerning budgets is I have personally reviewed 8,000 individual business budgets. I have put together 2,000 to 3,000 3- to 5-year budgets to sustain businesses or individuals so they don't have to do a full bankruptcy. So those are, and then running the 9 businesses United Parcel Service will give me an opportunity to help make Washington much more efficient, to run Washington like a business, and return dividends back to the taxpayers.